I'm Brittney Coble. I'm a support ops engineer at the Capella Space Company in San Francisco. I actually had done some radio show producing, I'd done some advertising and done sales, and it just wasn't a fit. Started going back to school and got into IT when I started doing my master's, but it wasn't a very technical role. And I entered Louisville to get the more technical side. We learn about the satellites themselves and how they communicate with the systems on the ground, and just kind of a very, very high level understanding of that, just to understand kind of the core of the business. Just kind of went in and then just started getting tickets, and also started asking for tickets for certain things. I always recommend, like, if you see something, like, I actually saw the auto scale opportunity, so I just asked for that and said, I'm gonna own that. That's mine. You kind of have to go looking for it. It's not just gonna be given to you. Well, that's just something I had to figure out a long time ago. Tech largely is almost all research. You generally go in not knowing how you're going to do something. You just know what needs to be done, but you're on some search engine trying to just find the answer and planning it, trying to plan it out and trying to get it there. Or if you're like me, I'm like, okay, this might work, and I'll throw some code in and get something going, but then it turns out as I keep going, oh, well, this wasn't the best way, there's a better way, and I have to change it and change it. But I would say that most of it, I would say 80% of it is actually the research part, and then the last 20% is when I finally, like, okay, I know how to get to the end, and then that's probably when you're doing your coding. My company is based on the West Coast, so no one is online at 9 o'clock in the morning. So my manager and I both kind of keep a little bit of our morning to ourselves to kind of get prepared. So I'll make or get coffee, take the dogs out, get the house straightened up to reduce my distractions. And then I start up about 10 o'clock in the morning. I'll spend the first, hour or so just kind of getting set up and preparing and getting everything checked and getting my stuff organized, making sure my priorities are still correct. And then do my stand-up, and then I'll just do most of the work in the middle of the day, and then by the end of the day kind of wrap up my notes for the next day's stand-up, so I can talk about what I had done and then what I was going to be doing, like where I was leaving off and where I needed to pick up for tomorrow. Stand-up is just kind of what did you do yesterday, what are you working on today, and are you blocked on anything? Depending on what clients need, we can support the data side, and we also support the infrastructure side, and making sure, because we have to have good infrastructure to put that data on, and then we have to have the data organized in a way that it can be accessed fast, that there's not a lot of lag time, that it can just be accessed at any time, that the uptime is there. And that data is going in, like not just coming out, but it's also going in, and that it's cleaned up, that it's organized. You might have a state value, for example, and you have California written out, and then you might have it come back as the 2-letter CA. And you want to clean that up, that anytime you see these, like, they mean the same thing. Or maybe you have date formats come in where it might be 2-digit month, 2-digit date, 4-digit year. And we might need it in 4-digit year, 2-digit month, 2-digit day. So we've got to write, and it's usually been in Python, where we write code that when that data is coming in, we flip it before we even put it in our data, so that it's in a format that works for us and that can be recognized by our stuff. But it's still going to say the same thing. It's just in a format that works, that's not going to throw an error or cause confusion among systems, things like that. In this particular project, I was working with some satellite data, and so the data actually came from the space operations group. They get it somehow from a satellite. They got some data that they worked with, exported it to CSV using Python, because they use Python as well. And they sent the CSV to me, and I took it from there, put it back into a Pandas data frame, and also tested without using a Pandas data frame. My part of the project was to see if I could get that data into this time series database. And so the challenge was, it was a database I hadn't worked with, and it wasn't like a traditional where you could pull up a table and see it. Like the way you knew it was there is, was there data being plotted on this chart or not? And I had to kind of play around with the charts just to see what was being brought over and what would be the best type of way to visualize this data. We're evaluating BI tools for business intelligence. The data is not quite the space ops, it's more of the sales data, the customer data. And we're evaluating these visualization tools and how easy they are to use, how intuitive they are. The audience is going to be our upper management, so our CEO, the VPs. I think they're going to be the ones that are looking at these the most, and the ones using them or trying to put them together are going to be our BI specialists, probably our sales team, marketing team, maybe a support team. We can build the data on the back end and put it in a way that's easy for users to access. That's really more where I'm going to be at. And I'm not so much on the visualization side. But if I can pick up a tool and create a chart that might mean something to corporate, then that's a good sign for someone who doesn't have a lot of technical experience. It was frustrating at first, sometimes still is that I don't really have like a subject matter expert level of everything. I kind of have my hands in everything, and some days I think imposter syndrome sets in, and I think it's easy in tech to wonder if you're good enough. But then, you have days where you actually end up doing really, really well because you've had your hands in everything, and you can just kind of take off because you've got this little bit of foundational knowledge and can just build on it. So there's a lot of opportunities to build on lots and lots of different skills, and I don't think it's really a requirement to be an expert in. And considering how often the technology changes, it's probably not a good idea to get really, really good at something because it might go away tomorrow. The thing I like the most about being in tech is that you don't really have to have a ton of knowledge about the industry. You see a lot of people nowadays, sadly, being laid off, but the thing with tech is that you're not siloed to one industry. Like, you can take your skills and pretty much put them somewhere else. A lot of companies use Python, a lot of companies use AWS, a lot of companies use databases, and you can take those skills pretty much anywhere.